even understand it, and that's no small thing. Art can crack open cemented opinions. It opens up horizons. It challenges given and standardized or problematic views of the world. It brings to the fore hidden or marginalized stories or narratives. It sheds light on the sidelines and draws attention to that which needs to be noticed. Art changes things in very subtle ways, and that's its great power. I consider art in that sense to also function as the conscience of society, though that's not necessarily its primary goal. At the same time, rather than accepting the world as it is, it imagines the world as it could be. As the Greek philosopher Kostas Exelos put it, art is the ultimate creative, productive force because it forces us to say, to see, and to hear that which, without art, would not be said, seen, or heard. And this resonates with me, this little bit of like getting people to see differently, of empowering them through beauty, through discomfort, through interaction, through many things, but this little change. So coming back to the beginning of this talk today with Lucas, where he talked about Horizon 2020 and funding instruments and how we work with government, I asked that to Katrina. So how did you manage to do a critical show? Because how do you talk about Greece without being critical? How do you do anything political today or economic without having a critical voice that shows this word crisis that we've been using for 7 years now, right? Crisis used to mean a turning point. It was a medical term. It was the moment you had to treat or die. Now it's not, it's not a ephemeral or brief crucial thing. 7 years, it's nearly a decade. And it's not a crisis, it's a multitude of crises. And the one we don't often hear about is the humanitarian crisis that's going on underneath all of it. So I asked her, how can you talk about these things? How can you work with artists who are dealing with this and be paid by the state? And she told me, good question, you can't. And actually, she managed to privately finance the whole exhibition and to house it in the Beaux-Arts next to the exhibitions of the Hellenic presidency. But she said they wanted nothing to do with her show. And I found that really interesting. And I'm not saying that as like a deterrent to not collaborate with government, not at all. But I think that this thing about autonomy and what you're able to say is really important when you make that relationship. So it's not about not being willing to compromise, because I really agree with Matt's view on that. But it's about what you compromise on and maintaining your freedom to say what you think and to put things out there that need to be put out there. Okay, long introduction about my last writing interview. This is a project from an artist that I work with. He's a Dutch artist. Maybe you know him. He's called Jeroen Jongeleen. This is an older project called Plastic Bag as a Jolly Roger. Basically, he walked around the streets and he started picking up litter, and the plastic common bags from the supermarket. Here it was often from the Aldi or the Albert Heijn. And then he would take this bag and he would climb. And I mean, that was just a joy for him, I think. Like for him, technology, a big part of his art technology is his body and pushing what he can do.